There was an old game called MapleStory. Actually, MapleStory is still going on. I was hyper obsessed with it. It's a very strong community, even to this day, still a pretty valid and strong community out of MapleStory. So I was like, okay, pretty fun game. Actually had a great time. I had a lot of friends on there. And we had a little bit of a guild going on in MapleStory. And one of the people in the guild, you could tell that he had better vernacular than most people. You could tell maybe he was a teenager at the time that I was in middle school. So we chatted up talking like that. He told me about his fun stories and tales about high school. It was really fun. I was super excited to learn about all these things about his life. So he then proceeded to say, hey, man, let me tell you something. We got to hang out one day. And I'm like a 12-year-old kid. I'm like, sure. Why not? He may have been like 17, maybe. I was just confused about how old he was. He never gave me an age. So I stopped playing MapleStory for like 6 years. And I'm like 18 at the time. Before I get kicked out of my mom's house, I log back in and say, hey, man, I'm going to try to log on to MapleStory. I'm trying to go to the library, play MapleStory a few when I can. But right now I'm getting kicked out. He's still playing MapleStory. He says, okay, I'll be here waiting. Trust. And I'm like, sure, okay. So 4 years passed. I played a little bit, but I didn't play that much. 4 years passed. And I'm like 22 at the time. 27 right now. 5 years ago. Brother is just like, he messaged me. I had like 27 like unread messages from like our little Skype call thing. And he's just like, hey man, just appreciate it if you making sure you're safe. Just want to let you know, still appreciate you. And he would update me, give me like little long pages of updates about his life. And then he said, at the end of all of it, hope you're not dead. Hope you're doing good. So at 22 I responded and said, thank you for all the life updates. Here goes my life update. Told him about my life. He said, whoa, that's crazy, man. You were married, bada bing, bada boom. You went to Vegas. I'm like, yeah, life was crazy, man. He said, do you want to hop on MapleStory? And I said, when I get my new place, I'll hop on. Get my new place, play MapleStory for a little bit. He says, hey, man, I'd really love to hang out with you. I'm like, you know what? After all this time, after all these days, eons, years, after all these millennia, let's hang out. We organize a hangout. And he's telling me, he's like, all right, I'm going to give you my location. You tell me how far it is from you. I'm like, cool. I never told him I was in Detroit. This brother says, yeah, I live in Dearborn. I'm like, hold on. Dearborn's like 20 minutes from Detroit. I'm like, dude, we're right up the street from each other. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Now, I don't know his age. Don't know anything about him. I actually don't even know if he's a he at the time. I had no clue. So I go. I ride my car. Drive it all the way through over there. And I go to his house, and I open the door, and a 6'2" Mexican woman answers, who's maybe like 43, maybe. She's tall, and I'm just like, is the real Los Lobos here? And she says, I'm the real Los Lobos. I'm like, everything was my soul was I didn't understand what was going on. The way that the real Los Lobos spoke was like a guy, very like guy talk, right? Also, they talked like they were in high school. Turns out they were actually in college at that time. So from like 12, maybe I was with the age difference, they were like probably like 30, maybe 28 or something like that. I'm like, not making any sense. And they're just like, do you want to play MapleStory with me? I'm just like, sure. So we play MapleStory. We're chilling, rocking, vibing. I'm 22 years old. I'm having a great time. Life is good. And I hang out with her for like maybe 3 months. We're just chilling, playing MapleStory. And I'm like, you don't have any kids or husband or like that? She's like, no. I just edit YouTube videos for people. I'm just like, that's all you do? She's like, yeah, I make almost all money doing that. She's just an editor. All she does is edit videos. And I was like, did you know I was a youngin and stuff like that? And she was just like, I had an idea, maybe a little bit, but I didn't know. So we just became really good friends. Up until about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, she moved to Pennsylvania. And I want to visit her again. I miss her. She's really cool. Nothing provocative about her, nothing promiscuous, just a genuine love of MapleStory. It was crazy. I think about that so much. I think about how I had no idea. I think about meeting that person, how horrible that could have went. It was amazing. Sometimes you just got to take the risk and meet your online friends. And I'm just saying that right now. Sometimes you got to take the risk. Amazing time. I loved it. It was great. I stopped going to church because a guy cheated on his wife with a 14-year-old and ended up blaming her when she left the church. So I see one of the people in the pews crying on a Sunday. I never seen somebody cry on a Sunday unless it was filled with the spirit of Holy Jesus. So I walk up to her and I say, you okay? And she says, I'm fine. I just I just think my husband's having an affair. And I said, if you think your husband's having an affair, you gotta pray about it. This is back when I was a devout Christian, back when I used to be a youth pastor. I said, just pray about it. I'll pray with you. And she said, God has shown me that he is unfaithful. And I said, unfaithful? How is he showing you that? And she said, through text message. I said, okay, all right, that's a new way. I've never seen God communicate through text or email. That's new to me. And she shows me screenshots she has of her going through his phone and just seeing all the messages. I see all his messages. This is horrible. It's horrible. And I'm like, man, this is insane. I'm thinking of somebody in the church. I'm confused. It is somebody in the church, but somebody I didn't expect. That's what caught me off guard. So I'm here like, hey, I'm so sorry this is happening. Well, what can we do about this? Can we talk to him? And she said, well, marriage means you're in it forever. And I convinced her. I said, no, listen to me. You have to deal with this and confront this. This is very serious. She confronted him at church that very same day, actually, and exposed that he was talking to a 14-year-old. The 14-year-old ended up getting, ousted by the church for a little bit, but she came back because he ended up blaming her because she left the church because she couldn't deal with it. I was like, what? I was confused because he cheated on his wife with a 14-year-old, and then he got the entire church to back him on his side because she ended up leaving the church and saying she turned her back to God and allowed the devil to confuse her. Yes, I am talking to this 14-year-old, mentoring her, and our conversations do get a little bit inappropriate, but that's because I'm teaching her about the way of life. And I'm thinking to myself, that's obvious PDF file work, right? That's obvious. Everybody's going to agree that that's crazy. Turns out the pastor said, you know what? I tell you this much. You might be onto something. I'm saying, this whole church is corrupt. My bad. I apologize. Oh, my chest hurt. I never felt a stinking feeling. I think God sent me a message that day that I should stop following him. At that point, I said, okay, God, I see you. Maybe some people are misinterpreting your message, I think. And I had a dream that night. A dream of me not going to church on a Sunday. And I listened to that dream. Maybe that was the message. I'm not sure. A lot of people have told me, well, that was God telling you to, find a different church. I said, I don't think that was the true message. I think that when you have a bunch of people that don't get told that they are responsible for their own issues and they can blame them on somebody else, then they use that to blame their issues on somebody else. That's what I think. That's just my personal thing. But I will say this. That whole church was evil. The whole church was just messed up. Thinking about it makes me sad a little bit. It makes my chest hurt a lot. It messed me up. So I'm trying to reconcile and understand why a grown man would cheat on his wife of 10 years with a 14-year-old. But then I realized that it's a black church man. I don't know why I even thought that question. I don't even know why that happened. I remember Tyler Perry. I know how this happens. I know what's going on. So I ended up talking to the guy before I leave the church myself. I said, so why did you do it? He said, you see, the wild temptations that of flesh have tempted me. And that's maybe the devil talking, but it's through the journey of God that I have to resist the temptation of the devil. And I said, if I was an idiot, that would make so much sense. If I was a dummy, you could probably tell me that, and I would say, you know what? Praise God. You got to get through it. I'm proud of you. This is a test from him. If I was an idiot, you could tell me that all day. However, you have committed an act of vile unlawfulness. And then he said, who made those laws? Man. What is it under the light of God? Because love is love. And I said, okay, you can't just do the reverse. You can't just do the logic. You can't just fit whatever narrative fits your thing. You can't do that. That's not how it works. He said, well, we'll see when comes Judgment Day. And I said, we'll see what comes Judgment Day. That sentence made me leave the church in its entirety. Do I have a relationship with God currently? I got a relationship with my wife is what I got right now. That's the situation that's going on. That whole situation was messy. I think about it a lot. He's still talking to her. My friend had very bad gum damage all around here and the mouth area and was very not confident in their teeth. I personally didn't care, but they didn't want to offend anybody because they had horrifyingly bad breath because their teeth were rotting. So I completely understood. I said, after your tooth surgery, I'll take you to go get a Shure SM7B. Shure SM7B is a very nice microphone. I use it a lot. It's the microphone that's actually right here. This is my microphone. So I take him to go get the Shure SM7B. Pretty cool, pretty nice. We go to this store. It's a very local store. It's the only store that has Shure SM7B because it was a Guitar Center. They didn't have it. Went to Best Buy. They didn't have it. So we just go to get the Shure SM7B. And we could have ordered it on Amazon. Could have took out the middleman. But we decided to go support local business. The sign on there. And I've never seen this sign before. I've never seen this. Sign says no mask. Usually it says mask required. But I'm like, interesting. And my friend is wearing a mask because they just don't want to offend anybody. I'm very confused. So I'm like, interesting. So I'm like, hey, I think they don't want you to wear your mask here. And then he says, maybe the sign's messed up. It's ripped a little bit. We go in. Old dude. He looks at me. He says, what's up? I'm like, what's cracking, dude? And he says, hey, no mask. And I say, oh, pardon my friend. They just got tooth surgery and having a bad time. They can't really do anything with that. And we're both black. I want to point this out. We're both black. And he says, sorry, no mask. And I said, why no mask? I'm very curious about that. He said, well, we got to be able to, see your face when you come in here. And I said, well, and it's wintertime, like it's cold outside. And I said, well, like things like COVID and stuff like that going around. I don't want my friend to, give you something. He could have COVID or something like that. Even besides the tooth thing. He said, but you already said the tooth thing, so there's no real reason for you to wear the mask. And I was like, I've never heard this before. Usually, people would be super offended if we didn't wear a mask. Now you don't want us to wear a mask. I just don't understand what the logic is here. He looks at me. He says, sir. And I said, sir. He says, our cameras need to be able to identify your face. I look right at the camera and I smile. I give him a big, bright, pearly white smile. I look at him and say, all right, you got me. You have a Sheridan 7B here. I don't even want it. We go back. I buy him the microphone on Amazon like I didn't want to do. I thought we could get it today. Thought we could start his streaming career today. Didn't want to do that. So go to the shop. It has no reviews. Now, I want to be a good person. I want to be a great person. I want to be an amazing, immaculate, good Samaritan. So I leave 87 reviews. All 1 stars. All paragraph long. All AI generated, actually, too. I used ChatGPT to AI generate all those negative reviews. Just did my best to put my right foot first. Don't forget it. SpongeBob type beat. Just making sure his business is helped out. I went back here and I said, hey, man, why has your review got one out of 5 stars? Like 87 bad reviews. What's going on? You got mode in here? What's going on? What, the health department to come in here? He's just like, did you do that? And I said, nah. They're all different accounts. Because I made 87 different accounts because I have time. The worst thing is a black man with time. That's the worst thing on the planet. Worst thing. I had time. He said, yeah, it's really been affecting new business. It has. As a matter of fact, it affected him so deeply, that 2 months ago, the store closed down. I used to work at Chuck E. Cheese. I was the rat, essentially. I was Charles Edward Cheese. His name is Charles Entertainment Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese stands for that. But I do want to point something out here. There was one moment where a 5'6" autistic kid, he was a low functioning autism kid. He came in and he looked at me and said, and I was like, what's up, buddy? How you doing? I dapped him up. It was Kid Check. Kid Check is the thing at the beginning when you walk into Chuck E. Cheese and you end up getting that stamp on your hand. That's so we can match the numbers with the parents so nobody steals any kids. That's the point of the Kid Check. So I ended up putting the Kid Check on the kid. I'm just like, you have a good day. And my brother, he worked with me. He did games and he did the candy counter, the counter for prices. So we see this kid. He's having a good time. He's having a fun time. And it's a Saturday. It's really packed. And 15 minutes into my shift, upon me signing in the Kid Check, there was a loud scream. I'm like, what the hell was that? And I hear just, I'm like, what the fuck was that? It was like a roaring bellow from a Gregorian god. I was like, oh my goodness, what is this noise? It sounds like an actual legend. And it wasn't a Gregorian god, but the 5'6" kid that I saw. And at one point, this kid's like 11, 12. He's just a big kid. And he's like, easy like 190, 195. He's huge. He's just jacked. And he's tossing other kids. He's pushing them. Like, he's pushing them to the ground. And I'm just like, whoa, I can't leave Kid Check. And I look at my brother, and there's a kid in front of him. And he just looks at the kid and says, you want a green airhead or you want a rare airhead? I'm like, what the fuck? Nobody's doing this. Nobody's paying attention. These kids are getting tossed, getting pushed in the machines. And this mom tries to stop the kid. And he bites a chunk of her shoulder off. And GTA, obviously, this is and TikTok, just don't take this video down. He bites a chunk of her shoulder off, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, CJ, what are we gonna? And he just looks at the kid and says, so you want the green hair, right? And I'm like, oh my God, nobody cares. And the dad runs over, and he's like, I'm gonna get that son of a bitch. I'm like, oh my God, this is intense. And there's like 2 dads trying to stop the kid. The kid headbutts the dad, right? And dad falls over. And the other dad is like, that guy was my friend. I'm like, this is like a scene out of a movie. And I just look over at CJ and I point over because I can't leave kid check. I'm not allowed to. He just says, oh, you wanted the red airhead. I'm like, what? And I'm like, all right, I gotta leave kid check because this is insane. So I have one of the newer people come watch kid check, and I go to the back, and my managers are in the back looking through the cameras, and I'm like, Shannon, what's going on? What's happening? And Shannon's like, that's crazy. Whoa, that's crazy. Whoa, that's crazy. Look at the guy who's crazy out there. That's so nuts. I had never imagined that would happen at Chuck E. Cheese. I'm like, dude, we gotta stop them. He was like, whoa, stop them. Okay, what the frick? I'm not gonna stop them. You're crazy. I'm like, why? And I'm like, okay. So I ended up I think somebody ended up calling the cops, and I ended up having to speak to the cops, and I had to describe the entire situation, and the kid gets escorted out, and it's just hectic. And then I look over at CJ, and his final words to me are, the kid wanted a green airhead. What? I accidentally committed an act of sticky fingers because nobody was in the entire store. So I walk in Dollar Tree, minding my black business, and I proceed to go and get my food. Everything's $1 at Dollar Tree, but not anymore. It's $1.25. Inflation is destroying everything. That's a 25% increase. I destroyed myself thinking about that. But ignoring that, I had $10. That means I can get about 7, 8 items maybe. So I proceed to get all my items. Few snacks for the road because I was going back to my household, and I was walking there because I wasn't that far from Dollar Tree. And then I wait a little bit and notice, well, this is kind of strange. Nobody's here. I look around, I give a resounding Gregorian chant. Hello, I say. Oh, this is quite the conundrum. Nobody is here. I go behind the cash register, I go in the back room, and nobody is in the store. Why is the store open? I'm a little bit confused. I don't know what's going on. I then proceed to hear some noises from the bathroom. They sound as if to be the noises of bedroom activity. So I rush to the bathroom, the door's locked. I begin to jiggle the handle. I said, let me in! And they said, ah! I can hear them, frantic, trying to go silent now after me hearing the noises of unholy activities. They were doing premarital inside the bathroom, trying to hide from me, thinking nobody would come on a Monday. Sadly, I go everywhere. So, I proceed to say, I know what you guys are doing in there. Let me in. I then hear them say, no. I'm like, well, so they are in there. I thought I was being schizophrenic. They are in there. I was confused. I don't know what was going on. So I said, well, I'm just going to take this. They said, take it. I said, huh? They said, take it. We don't care. I said, fine. I'll take it then. I proceed to try to walk out the building, and then I realized that, wait up a second. That's illegal. I can't do that. I'm a good Samaritan. I believe in the law. I fought the law, and the law always wins. I'm a felon, by the way, and I can't risk that. So I said, I'm gonna leave the money on the counter. Is that okay? They said, no, just take it. And I said, you know what? No. As a matter of fact, I'm turning this into a bigger issue. I said, fine. I lied. I did not mean fine. I called 911. I then proceeded to wait until they were done with their bedroom activities. They did not get done. They were in there going super gooper. They had the honey pack in there, it seems. They had a blue chew or something. I don't know what was going on there. I had no clue. The cops show up and they say, so you're saying somebody is exposing themselves in public? I said, yeah. Could you break down this door? The cop said, sure. One kick, swiftly. Oh my, he was like 6'5", beautiful man, blue eyes. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, he was so gorgeous. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk about that. He kicked open the door, bam, with the force of God. All I see is 2 separate but equal posteriors. It was insane. Split by a holy line. The same thing God gave everybody. I was a bit concerned. I was like, didn't want to see that. They promptly were arrested for public indecency. I then proceeded to take my items and walk out the store because the cop was preoccupied. I didn't want any witnesses, technically. That's all I didn't want. Realistically, that's all I didn't want. I didn't even care about the good act that I conceded. I didn't care about none of that. I just didn't want any witnesses considering what I was about to do. I didn't care for that. Anyways, Dollar Tree, check on your employees because they are beginning to care a lot less. Truly they are. My African friend explained to me that a lot of Africans don't like African Americans, and that's simply a difference in culture. So let me explain how I discovered this. My friend and me were sitting down at an IHOP at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I invited him out. He said, "Thank you. I appreciate you. You are very kind." I said, "No problem, bro. I appreciate you." He says, "So you are from Africa, and why you don't have the accent?" I said, "Well, I've been here long enough to where I kind of adapted a Midwestern accent, and I kind of lost the African accent." He said, "Okay, okay, I understand, okay." So we were talking, and he said, "Oh, look at those hood rats over there." And I said, "The hood rats?" And there's a bunch of black people just being loud and rowdy. And I said, "Well, they're not really hood, it's just they're us. They're black people like us." And he said, "You know how it is." And sadly, I knew exactly what he was talking about. You see, he then began to explain to me, like just in general, what I had thought and known for quite some time. He said, "Africans do not know African Americans at all. They do not like them. Let me watch this." He said, "Hello, brothers." And he signaled the hood rats that he called them over there. He said, "What's up, cuz? Cracking?" Then he said, "Do you know who the African president is?" And he says, "Nah, I had no idea. I don't know, Shabuki, like. And he did some clicking noise, like, "Oh, that boy, like." And he was like, "Yeah, thank you, brother. You all right?" He said, "Yeah, I know my African history. I'm from the motherland. Peace up, word up." He says, "Word up." See, they are idiots. I'm like, "Oh, yeah." He starts explaining to me about how they don't know African history. They only know African American history. That's all they know. It's a difference. He said American Africans are not good. And I'm like, "What do you mean not good?" He said they're not us. They're not cultured like us. They are not us. And then I asked, I said, why would like some Africans come over here because they want to be American? Well, they get American money, send it over to their family. Asians do this too. And there's a bunch of Asians in Africa for some reason. And there are there's a little subsection of Asian people, like Chinese people in Africa because there's no population laws. It's a whole thing. He was explaining all this lore to me. I didn't know anything about this. I was confused. I was like, "Are you sure this is real?" And he said, "As far as I know, this is real. This is what I know. I go by what I know. That is what I am." Then he started talking like homophobic and all this other stuff. And he said, "Well, think about it. Most older black people here even are homophobic. You know when they say, 'Is he this?'" And I said, "Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. But, the newer generation is coming out and changing that." He says, "No, newer generation African Americans are majority are homophobic. Same with Caucasus people. Caucasus people. They are also homophobic." And I said, "Okay, all right, okay, fair." And I was just learning how his perception was, and it got me thinking, why is it that way? Why don't Africans like African Americans? Can someone explain that to me? Why is that? My friend is scamming people using AI art, and I want to talk about it, and I want to explain how I figured this out. My friend has been an artist for 12 years. 12 years they've been working on their art. They have been helping out other artists. They have been trying to get people onto digital art deeply. That's all they care about. And they're good artists in person. Like, they can draw, they can do painting, they can even do oil painting, which is very difficult. They're really amazing. So my natural assumption was that they had been getting a crazy amount of commissions, and they have been. But recently they bought a house. And I said, "How'd you get a house?" And they said, "Well, I started doing commissions." And I'm thinking to myself, oh, he must have found a rich furry, because furries, for some reason, have a crazy amount of money. No. He invited me over to his 1-story, 4-bedroom, finished basement, 2.5 bathroom house. I was like, "Woo, this place is amazing." He said, "Yeah. And I got fiber optic internet." I'm like, "How much was this?" He was like, $680,000. I'm like, "Oh man, this is in this housing market, that was good." He's like, yeah. I asked him, I said, "So what do you want to talk about?" He said, "I feel like I can trust you, so I want to tell you this. And if you know who you are, you can just know that everybody knows this now. I'm not going to give your name, but just know, I know. I'm not going to stop your hustle. I'm never coming to anybody's livelihood. I'm never coming to anybody's livelihood ever. Not once." He said, I've been using an AI program to just put in prompts and feed it my art so it can generate my style. And I said, what? He showed me this whole AI processing thing where he feeds it 10 of his arts so it can copy and get that style down. Then he gives it a prompt and it generates a custom image for the person. He says usually I have to do it about 10 times before I get the fingers, and sometimes the face is a bit weird with the teeth, but people don't really notice. They don't really care or look that deep. And I said, whoa. And this has gotten you all this money? He said, yeah. I said, dude, you're like scamming people. He said, it's technically still my art, but not really. And I said, dude. And he looked at me and said, before you judge, do you draw? I said, no. He said, do you know how hard it is on my mental when I can't finish a piece or I'm not satisfied? Sometimes I'll redo the whole piece. That takes too much time. And he looks at me dead in the eyes and says, time is something I can't ever get back. And I never will be able to. So I'm using this to do commissions. And I've gotten. And he showed me his commission list. He has a Google Drive, like an Excel sheet. Over 80 commissions. Some artists are lucky to have like 4 lined up. Like 4 commissions that'll get them like $2,000, maybe $500. 80 commissions. And he said, I tell them it's going to take a while, but I already have all these done. I usually just chill out and just give them the product when it's done. It usually doesn't take me more than 5 hours to get all these done. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. That's nuts. You ever have a corner store that you trust with your whole life and soul? You ever have that one specific corner store that when you go in there, you know the employees, you know that, hey, give me 10 on 2, and they just know you. They know your entire gas station order. Same way with like local restaurants and things of that nature. Let me explain something very important and significant to you. I had an experience in which the corner store person saved my actual soul, my life, my entire vindication for existing. My reason, my soul essence belongs to this one Arabic man. So I go into the store. It's Tuesday. I just get off of work. I had a tough day at Chuck E. Cheese. It was 6 p.m. And Tuesday, Chuck E. Cheese, 6 p.m., no parties. It was a tough day. So I'm like, I walk over to the store, and he's like, oh, Habib. How do, brother? How do you do? Habibi, my brother. He shakes my hand. He's just like, so what can I do for you? I'm like, I'm just chilling. I just want to chill in here for a second. He was like, pull up a chair. And by chair, he means like 3 crates, because he has like 3 crates. So I pull up 3 crates. And I lean on 3 crates, and I'm chilling. And we're talking. We're talking about the day. We're talking about his life. We're talking about his daughter. Oh, my daughter, she does not want to marry. I'm like, she doesn't want to marry? No, brother. She does not want to marry. And in Muslim culture, we did to marry. I'm like, I didn't know that. He teaching me about his life, his lore, his wives. He has like 2 wives. He has one for the house and one for the everything else. And he's a beautiful Arabic man. He's a good dude. He's just like, allow me to explain something, brother. And he's telling me why have you not converted to Islam? Why have you not converted to what we are? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you guys are the original Hebrew Israelite. I'm like, and he starts like feeding me hotep nonsense. In the midst of this, he sees 3 guys enter, and he's just like, quiet down, brother. I'm like, what's up? Shh. You hear that? I'm like, hear what? I hear metal. I'm like, metal? He's like, yes, I hear metal. One of those men is armed. I'm like, I don't know if you're telling me the truth. I have no idea. I had no clue. And he's just like, we shall see. And I can hear him grab his gun. He's like, hello, brothers, what can I do for you? And they're scratching like, yeah, man, we just came in here to... And before they even are able to put me in a hostage situation in any capacity, as if he was the Arabic Spider-Man, his spidey sense tingled, the halal went off in his brain. He activated the power of hummus, it seems so, because he made these chickpeas. He's made the 3 dudes pea. Hummus is made of chickpeas. I'm trying to find a way to correlate that. Anyways, I was like, oh my goodness, what? He pulls out a Sklippy. A sklip lop lippity bop, and boom, right in the foot. Dude falls over. Other dude, right in the leg. He's like, Habib, call 911, use phone. And the third dude, he's like trying to scramble and run away, and he gets away. He's like, dang it. He's like angry. And I'm like, what was that about? He was like, look. And while they're like grunting on the ground and crying and screaming and stuff like that, in this guy's belt buckle was the iron on his hip. Oh my goodness, Arthur Morgan style. I'm like, oh no. He actually did have an iron on his hip. He was like, I knew. I could tell. I deal with this a lot. You learn the thing living in Dearborn. I'm like, oh my goodness. What? It was so chaotic. I was like, man. He was like, no. You said you wanted hot Cheetos, a honey bun, and a hot dog, correct? And I was like, He remembered my order. It's just having those moments with these people. It was insane. And when you live in Detroit, this is like a very common. People steal all the time, but you never mess with the Arabic dude's corner store. Ever. You never do. It's just a law. It's a rule. It's a rule. I was listening to Chris Brown in my room, and my friend came in and asked me if I can separate the art from the artist. I was confused. I was a little bit perplexed. I took my headphones off. I said, separate the art from the artist. Why you ask that? He said, because I want to listen to Melanie Martinez, but, she got those allegations. I said, they're pretty much confirmed at this point, but I don't want to get into that. But I feel like if a music has something deep inside your soul, you should be able to listen to it, or whatever art form it is. He said, well, what if they're racist? I said, okay. Is anybody else listening to the music with you? He said, no. I said, cool. I think there's a big issue going on right now where people want to be virtuous when nobody's witnessing. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When nobody's watching, I'm evil. When people are watching, I'm evil too, but I'm way worse when nobody's watching. I hang out with homeless people all day, every day. They don't have any morals. None. Not a single moral. They walk up to your car, hands covered in fecal matter, and rub it against there and say, you got $2? Those are my people. Those are my people. I go to stores, like Walmart, I commit some Sly Cooper activities. I do Robin Hood, except I give to the me. That's what I do. My moralistic grounding is very low. I want you to understand that if you're following me, my morals are in the dirt. Now, there are obviously things I won't do that are just basic human traits that I won't do. But when it comes to corporations, corporate greed, and things of that variety, or even just things you enjoy that aren't harming anybody, I'll do whatever I want to do. As long as it isn't harming another person, that's me. That's how I operate as a human being. So if you want to listen to a canceled artist, if you want to listen to a Bill Cosby comedy special, if you deeply in your soul, for some odd reason, some strange reason, want to listen to Chris Brown, by all means, do what you want to. You can listen where you want to. Your friends may not like you. As long as you like you, at the end of the day, you're not harming anybody or ruining anybody's lives, you're perfectly fine. Now, you could make the argument, wait a second. By funding this artist, we're funding somebody. You sure are. Unless you download it in a fun way. Unless you listen to it in a fun way. I haven't paid for Spotify ever. I've never once paid for Spotify. I listen to everything through a fun app. I'm not going to tell you which app it is, but I listen to everything through a fun app. There's no universe in which I'm doing that. Turns out the creator of Rurouni Kenshin, piece of garbage. Now, I don't even use Crunchyroll. Didn't affect me none. I don't watch anything, let's say, completely legal. If you're still watching things completely legal in the year of our Lord, the year of our goodness, 2024, something's wrong with you. I haven't supported an artist that I don't know in, 28 years. I'm 28 years old. Haven't supported one of them. Not one. So I don't know how y'all doing it, but hey, that's you. Listen to whoever you want to. Do what you want to do as long as it's not hurting anybody. That's how I have an afro. Everybody sees this, you guys see the multicolored and things of that nature. But apparently, this isn't a very regular hairstyle. It's not very common. People don't just look at this and think, oh, that's just normal. People approach me all the time. And it's not because I have a little bit of TikTok clout, not even that capacity. It's not because people think I'm Inspector Gadget and they're here to go Gadget, look at my hair. They're not doing that in any capacity. No. They're here to ask a very inane, psychotic, or what I thought was a psychotic question until the 17th time I heard it. They said, can I touch your hair? And I was like, when I first heard this, I think I was 13 years old. 13 years old, I was walking down the street, I had my big afro going out. I was just rocking it, having a good time, and I was picking out my hair, and a tall, elderly, Caucasian gentleman approached me and said, good evening, sir. And I said, what's cracking? And he said, so, it's like pubes on your head, yes? Like a sheep's wool? I'm like, I suppose you could. That is a very interesting way to phrase that, sir. It indeed is. And he said, I would like to pet it. He didn't say touch, he said pet it. I said, you're weird, back off me, or else something about to happen. He said, whoa, no need to get so hostile. I just wanted to touch your immaculate mane. And I said, don't ever come around me again. And I walked away. I was downtown. I just didn't really think much of it. I didn't experience this for a minute because after that, I cut off all my hair. I just cut it all off. I was like, I don't want to experience that again. It wasn't until after 19, around that range, when I experienced homelessness and I couldn't really get haircuts. I was like, you know what? I don't really And actually, no, before that too, when I was 16, I had crazy hair too. But I was just really into my hair. But like around like 19 is when I stopped like truly taking care of it. I was like, I'm just gonna let it grow and do whatever it feels like. So, lo and behold, I'm at the mall. I'm chilling. I'm looking to go into Spencer's and maybe take a few things. You know, legally, of course. I don't mean stealing. Why would I ever steal? Stealing is bad and wrong, and you shouldn't steal. I see the cashier, and he's just like, whoa. Hey, bro, your hair is crazy. I'm like, thanks. I didn't think much of it. I had not realized that he thought too much of it. And he said, so, it's going to sound like a rude question, but can I touch it? I'm young, I'm goofy, I'm like, haha, no. 3 times that very same day, someone comes up to me and says, whoa, brother, let me ask you a question. How long did that take you to grow? It took me, I don't know, a year, 15 months, maybe. I don't really keep track of this. Whoa, let me go ahead and give it a touch. So I was like, you know what? Go ahead and touch it. Go ahead. Anytime he did this. Now, I don't know if you know how black hair works. This does nothing. This is, if you do this, a little scratch maybe. Maybe if you get in the scalp, I can feel it. But this is just, you're essentially touching it. Good on you. You're touching my hair. I'm so proud of you. I was so baffled by this. So I'm like, all right. I moved to a different area. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna let people just touch my hair all the time. But maybe I get stylized. People won't touch it as much. So I decide to get braids. But I didn't go to a black hair salon. Because I didn't know, this is something I didn't know. I didn't know there were specifically black and white hair salons. I didn't know that. That's the information I was not privy to. So I was like, I go inside this hair salon, I look around, I see all these hairstyles. They're just like, hi, how can we help you? I'm just like, do I got to book an appointment? They say, no, we do walk-ins. I'm like, fine, cool, salary. Could I get my hair cut? And she says, oh, you have exotic hair. And I'm like, what am I, Tarzan? Exotic hair? What are you talking about? I don't know. It costs extra if it's exotic. I'm like, cost extra? You can call my hair exotic all day. I don't care about that. But cost extra? Come on now. I'm already broke. So I'm like, fine. And she pulls out like scissors and just begins to do whatever she wants up here. And I'm like, okay, so I want a 2-strand twist. She said, oh, sorry, I didn't know what you wanted. You said a haircut. And I was like, I just let you do what you wanted at first. I was just curious what she was about to do. So, ruined my hair for a large point in time at that point. And then, after I grew my hair back out, found a black hair salon, realized the difference between those two. Whole just debacle there. That was a whole experience for that. But then, even after I got my 2-strand twist, people kept telling me, oh, you should get dreads. Or you should get braids. Or something of that nature. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to just do whatever I want with my hair forever. So I just decided to have an afro. And whenever anybody asks me to touch it, I just let them touch it. Because it's much easier to just let somebody touch my hair than anything else. I refuse to just have, I just can't take it anymore. I just let them do it. You come up and ask to touch my hair, you can touch it. I don't even care anymore. I just don't care. You guys win. You beat me, you broke me. You broke a brother. You got me. Anyways, just wanted to make this video. Have a good day. My friend attacked his mom, so I had to set him straight. So there I am, hanging out with my friend, minding my black business, and we're playing Tekken 8, having a great time. I sit down, I say, all right, I'm about to plug my controller. I plug in my fight stick. He's a little bit concerned. I spent $600 on his fight stick. I'm having a great time. We're playing the game, and his mom comes in. Now, I'm a little bit concerned and confused because he's a grown man. Why is he staying with his mother? So I thought it was his house. I thought he had actually come up in life. I am now discovering that this is his mom's house. And then I discovered a bigger plot twist. It's not his mom's house. It's actually his dad's house. And he's staying with his dad. And his mom is staying there because she has nowhere to go. And the dad is a good person. A lot of lore I'm discovering right now. A lot of information I didn't want to know. A lot of information that I have in my head now lives rent-free in your head too. We're doing this together. We're locked in as humans. So they start having a conversation. She says, it would be nice if you could do the dishes. He immediately flips a switch, calm the entire time before. But as soon as his mom said a sentence, he starts going crazy on her. Why'd you cheat on dad? Whoa, hold on, what's happening? I'm getting in the middle of a season 3 information and this season 1. I don't know what's going on. I'm concerned. I said, why did you do that? And she's just like, your dad is not straight. We had you out of, and immediately, with the force of Zeus, hits her across the face. I've never seen that in my entire life. Just hits her with the force of God. What? Whoa, what happened? I'm a little bit concerned. I stand up and I say, okay, all right. I hit him right with the fighting pad, right in the middle of the skull. Boom, cracked him. I just messed up my fighting pad. I don't even have it anymore. It's broken after that. After he struck his mother with the force of God, I kabickled him with my $600 fight pad. Just to give you a little recap of what was going on here. He gets up and says, "Bro, what was that for?" I said, "Hey man, come on, son. You can't be hit your moms like that." He said, "You don't know what she's done to me." I said, "Dude, I'm not trying to see domestic violence going on in front of me. You can do this after I leave. I'm not a great person. I'm not trying to see it, but if it's in front of me, I'm gonna do something about it." And he said, "She used to strike me when I was younger." Okay, and now you're stronger, and she probably didn't know how to be a parent, and it's understandable that you may have some residual trauma. I grasp that. I really do. But you can't be doing this in front of me, because there's a lot of information to take in. I don't want to take in all this information at once. This is news for me. And he says, "Nah, you don't understand. This is," he's like, grabs his head because he's having a throbbing headache because I smacked him with the fight pad. And the mom, by the way, the entire time we're having our little dialogue, our little movie dialogue, on the ground, his mother is just crying. She's the background vocals for this entire conversation. It's just tears on the ground. I'm a little bit concerned. I said, "This is horrible. I don't want to be a part of this." His dad, after us talk, we're talking about 10 minutes. We're just arguing with each other. His dad comes in 10 minutes later, and he says, "Hey," and I can tell immediately. I can tell by the softness of his posture and composure that he's a little bit flamboyant. "Hey guys, you guys always have an argument, and I just got home from work. We can't be doing this." Very calm man. I enjoy him. The very flamboyant father comes in and calms everybody down. Everybody's calmed down, and they have a conversation. And she has a web on the left side of her face. I feel like things are fractured. He has a web on his head, and I'm completely unscathed because I'm perfect, and I received no damage. He also doesn't have any bite back in him. I can tell that he only wants to fight women. I don't like him for that. We're actually not friends because of this, but this is a whole thing. I talked to his father and I said, "Does this usually happen?" He does this motion. "Yeah." I said, "Okay, you should have never got married to a woman. You should have just stuck with a man. If you're obviously a bottom. I'm not gonna lie. That's just bottom bunk activity for sure. That is just, I don't even know why you decided to marry a woman. I don't even know why you did that." He said, "I didn't know myself. I didn't know myself at all." I said, "Understandable, but you got to tell your son to stop striking his mother." He said, "Oh, he's just so aggressive. Stop him." I don't know I have no idea. So I tried to speak to him after a while. I left after that. I tried to speak to him after a while, and there's no getting through to him. It's like he enjoys the aspect of violence because he now is in a position of authority over his mother, where she's relying on him and her ex-husband, and now it's this whole thing, this power dynamic that shift. I say, if you are a parent, don't abuse your kids, because you never know when they can get stronger than you. That's the only, if you take any lesson from this, please don't abuse your kids, because you never know when they could get significantly stronger than you. That could be scary for you in the future. It really could. I think I just have to stop going out to the club. I think I just have to stop going out in Detroit, because I went out to City Club. If you don't know what City Club is, it's a golf club, goth indie, Eurocentric kind of club, and I'm really excited to go. I get my Sunday best on, getting all zooted up and suited up, and I go out thinking I'm going to have a great time. So it's fog littered throughout the floor, because that's usually how Leland goes, that's usually how City Club operates, and I see and peruse, and there's about 27 people inside the vicinity. I counted because I was scared, and I needed to make sure I knew my surroundings. Great method to, by the way. Also take note of the license plates and people's faces. Great thing to do. So I begin to go out to the dance floor and do what people never do in the club, and actually dance. I close my eyes, just enjoying the music, feeling the rhythm and feeling the beat, and I feel two posteriors upon my lower quadrants. I look in front of me and I see a woman taller than me, quite the high toner. I'm really excited. She looks like something of an Amazonian, and she is dropping that dun-dun-dun upon my don-dun-dun, and I'm very excited. And I'm saying to myself, okay, all right, we got it motion, we got it going. And I'm closing my eyes and feeling it out until her boyfriend comes and pushes her off and says, "So we just dance with anybody now, huh?" I think it's about to have a fracas, but he locks eyes with me, grabs my shoulder, and we start dancing. He's looking me eye to eye, to and fro. We are locked in. Princess and the frog, and I'm the frog, and he's the princess. His movement's phenomenal. I'm over the moon. I think I just made a new best friend with this man, I think. So, Upon me entering Leland City Club, me dancing with this woman, and then her boyfriend approaching me and dancing on me upon moving her, I now have made a friend for life, I feel. We are doing the kitten play, we are matching sequence quadrants, we are going to and fro, beat for beat, having a jam session on a dance floor, and it's something I'm enamored with. Something I am truly coalesced inside of my body, enjoying every motion about what's going down. And then he says, getting kind of tired, but I gotta do something first. I'm confused. He seemed to be angry in his tone, but I thought he was enjoying the dance floor. He turns to the woman that was previously dancing on me, the tall one, and he immediately begins having a furious vocal match with this woman. It is outstanding. I have never seen somebody use such diction, such angry language. And then they go to a back corner of the club. I'm beginning to follow them because I'm invested in the plot, and I can't lose out here. I gotta see Toy Story 2. So I'm looking at the bottom of Andy's boot, and I'm realizing there's no boot, there's no name on Andy's boot. What's happening? They're arguing, and he loses the fight. She elbows him right in the eye. Upon him trying to throw a punch at her, she weaves out the way, elbows him right in the eye. He's wept up, big swollen. He's on the ground crying, and he says, "Man, you want to go to Coney Island? This is my new best friend." Obviously, I got to go to Coney Island with him. We get 2 hot dogs, and I get pancakes. And we enjoy this meal as homies, as friends, as brothers. It is cathartic to me, honestly. So, after I go to Leland City Club, meet the man that was dancing with me upon striking his girl and then getting stricken by his girl inside of Coney Island, he says, "Man, we gotta get her." I said, "Okay, we gotta get her?" "Yeah, but we can't let this happen. We're best friends." "Are we?" No shared drinks, no shared kinship. Obviously, I don't know this man's name. I know nothing about him besides the few sentences we've exchanged. But that's how guy friendships work. We don't know much about each other. We're just friends. And he says, "You got a car?" I say, "No. Apparently I don't have a car." A little bit concerned. He says, "Okay, that scooter outside. That's your scooter?" "It is my scooter, my electric. I'm charging it right now." He says, "Drive me to my house." I drive him to the house in my electric scooter. And guess what? Lo and behold, he gets into another argument with his wife. Didn't know it was his wife. He has 2 kids with. And I see the kids crying. I see things going crazy. A Wii U flies out the window, and he says, "Wait here." He goes in, and I say, "No, I don't think I will." So I leave. I hear him shout from the distance, "You traitor! You were my best friend!" No, I wasn't. That was a lie. I was not his best friend. So I proceed to ride my electric scooter home, and I begin to rethink my life choices. Perhaps I shouldn't be going out to City Club ever again. Doesn't sound fun at all. You know what's worse than losing a loved one or breaking your leg or figuring out your mom has cancer? It's becoming important at your job. That's the worst feeling on the planet. Because when you become important, you don't get a pay raise. You don't get a badge of honor. You just get a pat on the back and more responsibilities. That's the worst feeling on the planet. I discovered this very immediately and very instantly by a acetaminophen agent of a boss. Came up to me. He said, "Ceros, it's not my name, Bleach Demon. What's going on? What you need, brother?" He said, "Well, you may not know how I do this, but the printer's not working." And I said, "Oh, I can fix the printer. I'm a little bit tech savvy. I know a little bit of things. I'm a little bit Dexter's Laboratory, so I'll go over there and fix it." He said, "Huh, thank God you're here." I heard that sentence, and immediately I thought to myself, I got to put in my 2 weeks. I knew at that exact moment he needed me too deeply. I knew at that exact moment that I was going to become a core member of the team. I didn't need that. He wasn't going to offer me a management position. I'm black. I had never seen a black manager since I entered this place. I had never seen an ebony-skinned person in that entire building besides me. I was the diversity hire for sure. I was the Disney woke casting of the job. And they proceeded to give me too much responsibility. After that day, they said, "Can you fix this broom? Oh, we need you here for that. We need you here for that." As soon as I figured out that I needed that, I put in my 2 weeks. And they said, "Oh, you'll be gone in 2 weeks?" And I said, "Yep." And immediately, the next day, I didn't show back up because I know what that meant. Being important at a job is the worst thing ever. Being important at a job is worse than figuring out a nuke is falling from the sky and it's going to take out your entire city. You're never going to go to that little cafe you enjoy. Being important at your job, worst feeling on the planet. The instant my manager told me that, I knew that if I didn't quit immediately, I was going to become the workhorse, the work boy, the auction need black person. I didn't need to do that. I didn't need for me to be more stressed at a job that was paying me minimum wage. Because if the minimum wage is all that you're paying me, that means that I will give you the bare minimum of what you get out of me. That's all you get. You paying me a bare minimum? Nope. That's the minimum you get. That's it. You get minimum. You pay me an exceptional wage, you get an exceptional work. That's how it operates. I'm not doing anything crazy for you. I'm not doing that. That's not how it works. My boss was so angry when I quit. He said, look, we'll give you a raise. I said, how much? He said 50 cents. I said, I'm not a rapper. What do you mean 50 cent? 50 cent raise. Some people get excited about a 50 cent raise. They be like, oh yeah, 50 cent raise. Hey, that adds up after a while. No, it doesn't. How long you plan on working here? I don't plan on working here that long. 50 cent raise don't mean nothing to me. 50 cent raise the roof. He a great rapper. I don't care about him. Nobody care about that. Don't give me a 50 cent raise. Then I'm going to stay off that. That's nonsense. That's psychotic. I don't appreciate that. Worst thing on the job. Worst thing you can hear is that. That's crazy.
I used to live in an Amish village. Now, a lot of people always question, how'd you used to live in an Amish village? What happened? Well, I was homeless. I was living behind a bakery, and the bakery was owned by a bunch of Amish people. The Amish people proceeded to be nice to me. The owner, whose name I will not give, let's just call him Jebby. Jebby said, you don't have to eat the Deos every night. I can help you out. And I said, really? You can help me out? You're going to help me, a poor soul? And he said, yeah, I'll help you out. I'm the bishop. And I was like, what's a bishop? Bishop owns the Amish community. I didn't know that. That was information I was not privy to. So he, for some reason, this is what messes me up, he owned a Tesla. This Amish man owned a Tesla. He whipped his Tesla and then parked it like 2 miles out, and we rode a horse and buggy into the town. There's no cars from the people that reside in it. You couldn't have cars. And they made most of their money from tourists and selling furniture. Their furniture is very good, and so is their bread. That's what people came there for. I lived in kind of like his guest house. I had an immaculate, amazing time. I loved every minute of it. The first few weeks, pretty chill, pretty cool. Nothing too crazy. First week, I was feeding the chickens. I was hanging out with the pigs. I was saying, hello, Margaret. How are you doing? Hello, Annabelle. Hi, KK. They call me by my nickname, which was great. Some people will come up to me and say, hey, are you covered in charcoal? You're as black as a sheep. And I said, I'm not covered in charcoal. And they said, God, why are you so dark? And they pet my hair. And I couldn't say anything because they were housing me and feeding me. I really couldn't say anything. I really didn't care. They were very nice, though. They fed me every night. They made sure I worked because they told me everything here is made by hand. If you eat something, you grow it. If you make something, you make it. If you want to sleep somewhere, you build that bed. You made your bed, lay in it. Amazing man, loved it. Now, I stayed there for 2 months. That was the entirety of time I stayed there. First month, I didn't do anything crazy. Okay, first 3 weeks, I didn't do anything crazy. Now, the first 21 days, I was learning how to do the farm work, churning the butter, making toe jam, learning how to make the bread, and then they taught me how to do making rings and blacksmithing and things of that nature. I knew a lot of Amish blacksmiths, and they taught me how to make weapons and things of that variety. I didn't know they did that in Amish village. It really threw me for a loop. I learned, and I still do help there from time to time, and I'm learning still. Very fun times. So, why am I no longer in Amish village? That was a pretty good gig. Well, I like to ruin things for myself. I'm a little bit of a scoundrel, a rapscallion, a little bit of a scallywag. The women noticed me. They were like, oh, hello, charming black boy. And I said, good evening. How goes it? It goes well. I bet it does. Perhaps you would like to take us ride on the dark side. And they said, oh, dark side. Yes. Star Wars. Have you ever seen it? No. I don't even know what that is. And they genuinely didn't know what it was because they've never seen media, it seems. So, sometimes, this happened twice while I was there, the 18-year-olds would have a chance to go out in the Amish society and go see if they liked it. And they asked me how it was, and I would explain all these amazing things. Oh, yeah, we got like Walmart and popcorn and hummus. And they were like, hummus? I said, hummus. You don't know about hummus, do you? They were like, no, I have no idea. And I said, that's what I thought. Figures. You're not learning about the lore. And they said, what is lore? And I said, you'll learn when you go out. I also began to, there was a bunch of women who found me very appeasing. And they proceeded to find a particular interest in me. And this interest led to them being very promiscuous. And when they were promiscuous, I said, whoa, what the frick? What's going on here? What the frick? So, yeah. everybody discovered that a lot of women were finding me very attractive, and I was doing the deed. I was doing the deed. And then they proceeded to have a meeting. I never realized that they had a town meeting, and they said, "All right, we're gonna give you a few dollars, and you'll be on your way. You've learned enough here. If you ever need us, please come back, but you cannot stay here." They helped me get a place. They helped me get a 1-bedroom apartment, actually. It was very nice of them. I put them down as my references. And as much as it's hard to believe, a few of them actually had, like, phones. It was nice to actually have people that looked out for you and or behind your back. I just was doing too much out there. But it was nice. It was nice. So that's how I know Amish blacksmiths.
I think if you don't like hair in the no-no square, that you may be attracted to people that are much, much younger. Let me explain why I believe this rhetoric. I was talking to one of my friends, and he said, "Hey, man, I just don't like girls who got, Sasquatch fur down in their no-no square." I said, "You don't like girls with Sasquatch fur?" I said, "How do you like it?" He said, "Clean shaven." I said, "Oh." And I thought of what my wife said one time, and I said, "Like a baby?" And he said, "What?" My wife had pointed out one time that if you're clean shaven, then you're like a baby. And I said, "Oh, so like a baby?" And he said, no, not like a baby. I said, "Babies ain't got no hair down there. Neither do prepubescent girls. So you like them like that?" He said, "No, like it looks nice and neat." I said, "Do you shave yours?" He said, "Nah, it's, men's supposed to, have a little bit of gruff." I said, No. "Do you know what hair is there for?" He said, "Hair is there, because it grows out. Like when your hair get up on your hair get on your armpits, you gotta shave it." I said, "Do you shave your armpit hair?" He said, "Men's supposed to have hair." I said, "Hair is a natural protectant for you against diseases, especially down there in the no-no square. There's a reason it grows. It also is a signifier of when you've matured and grown." So you're telling me you like women who don't look mature or grown down there. You like to look like they're not mature down there, so that's why you like it shaved. He said, "Nah, I just have a preference." I can understand the preference, but you don't do anything with women who have any hair down there? He said, "No, I don't really mess with them because it looks unclean." I said, "It is not unclean. It's actually extremely clean to have hair down there. It's super clean." He thinks that if you have hair down there in your no-no square, that you're insanely unclean. That's not true. That's not true at all. As a matter of fact, there's so many benefits to having hair down there. It prevents friction, because when skin on skin gets like this, it hurts and it burns a little bit. You can get like rope burns, same way you get an Indian burn, same way that happens. That causes a gateway for a bunch of other nasty and messy things to happen down there. That's how a bunch of things get spread. You can mess yourself up that way. And also, it just hurts. Having hair down there prevents that friction on a grand scale. So I'm just kind of, pin him down and ask him some real questions, some real hard-hitting questions. I said, "So you telling me, beautiful woman, 10 out of 10 comes up to you and she got armpit hair, you ain't there for that?" He said, "No, armpit hair, man, that's manly." I said, "That's manly to have armpit hair?" He said, "Yeah, it's because you can tell like she a feminist or something if she got that hair." I said, "You think she's a feminist? You think she's a feminist if she has hair down there, like around the armpits or down there, anything like that?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Women naturally grow hair. That's a natural woman. Naturally, women have hair in every facet. Some women have back hair. Some have chest hair. And that's okay too. What universe do you think they don't grow that?" He said, "They just probably got a little bit too testosterone." I said, "All right, that's a ridiculous statement. That's ridiculous. I think you want to be with somebody that doesn't feel like a woman at all. You want to be with a little girl." He said, What? He got real mad. He said, "I don't want to be with somebody that is a little girl." I said, "You want to be with a woman who has no hair on her body at all. That is a little woman. That's a little girl." And some women enjoy having their hair shaved. I understand that you want to trim it up and things of that variety. But that's a lot of upkeep and maintenance for a lot of work. For little effects. It's a lot of upkeep and maintenance. It seems ridiculous. And I think that every time he says something like that, it encourages other women to hate on women. That's what I believe. Personally. That's just my personal belief. We're over here arguing and having a horrible conversation, and somebody passes by, and I ask her, I said, "Hey, can I ask you a question, ma'am?" And she says, "Yes." It's going to be a little bit disrespectful, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is that okay? She said, "Fine by me." It's like she's used to disrespectful questions. I said, "Would you be with a man who is clean shaven down there?" And she said, "I suppose so." I said, "Would you be with a man that has never shaved?" And she said, "I suppose so." I guess it more depends on the person than what's shaved or not. Depends on if I like them. And I asked 4 more women that same exact question, and they had the same exact response. Then I asked one man that question just to prove my point. I asked one man that question. He said, "Oh, she got to be shaved." Then I asked another man. She said, "Oh, he got to be shaved." What's the obsession with being with women that don't exemplify the fact that they're women? What's the point of that? I don't get it. Maybe I must be out the loop. I gotta be out the loop because that seems weird to me. That just seems strange to me, doesn't it?